In this video, I want to talk about a strategy at finding some of the biggest and best populations of bass on the bodies of water that you fish. I see this no matter where I go in the country. I also follow this a lot in tournament fishing. But whether you tournament fish or not, this is a strategy that you can use to just get yourself around a group of fish that you know are quality fish as well. Now, before we get into that, guys, I do want you to know that this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Finn Fishing. Right now, if you buy one of my USA-made sun shirts for the month of March, you can get a hat at 50% off. All you got to do is add the shirt that you want to cart, add the hat you want to cart. It will automatically discount at checkout. It saves you a lot of money, and you can pick up some Finn gear as well as support this channel. All right, let's talk about this strategy. Now, real quick, I want you guys to know that I'm sorry for not posting the last couple of days. Long story short, 2 of my 3 boys came down with fevers. My wife isn't feeling well. We didn't sleep well. And then I happened to notice a small hole about this big on the side of my house the other day. And it ended up turning into a 4x4 foot sinkhole where my septic pipe broke, and it was a crappy situation. Legitimately, I typically do all this stuff myself because I just don't like to pay a lot of money for it. So I saved some money, got that thing done, and I was able, one of my best friends helped me, so it worked out. So I'm sorry for not posting. All right, let's get into this strategy. Enough about this other nonsense. If you guys watch a lot of tournament footage, a lot of tournament video, a lot of just tournaments in general, and this is something that has happened like forever. Like, you can go back in time and you can always find that this particular strategy for catching bass like works often. Now, it's not always the winning strategy for tournaments, but often guys do really, really well doing this. And it's something that is a little bit sneaky, but also you might kind of start to pick up on once you kind of realize what I'm talking about here. And what I'm really talking about, the strategy is finding the sweet spot in the community hole. This is a strategy that you see play out so often in bass fishing, is finding a sweet spot within a community hole. Now, a lot of us as anglers, we know those certain areas on the lakes that we call community holes. They're areas that are well known for putting out a lot of bass. There's a lot of bass caught there, maybe a lot of big bass caught there. And it seems like year in and year out, these community holes always produce fish. And a lot of times this is for a very specific reason. A lot of times you're gonna have better topography. You're gonna have better cover in these areas. Maybe it's an area that there just happens to always be some bait in. So it's really a home for a bass to just live and dwell in. And it's a place for them to even come back and swim back to at times. Now, with that being said, community holes typically have a lot of pressure. You typically see a lot of anglers in these particular areas. Now, what a lot of anglers do is they know that a particular area is a community hole. So they just go and fish it, but they don't analyze it. They don't really thoroughly go through it and try to find these sweet spots within the community hole. Because when I'm fishing in an area that I know is kind of a community hole, I at least know that I'm typically around fish. It's really about finding either that right little stretch, that right little piece of cover, maybe that right little lip, structure-wise, something that is holding the vast majority of that population. And also what I have found is that if you have a community spot, not just a community area, but a community spot, maybe it's a point that dumps right into the main river channel. It has another creek arm, something that's really sets up well that people fish almost the exact same place on it. Another thing that you see is that bass will move slightly off of the main juice of that to an area that's relatively close, usually within 100 yards, maybe 200 yards. They'll be very close, but they'll just be on something that's obscure. Maybe it's a piece of cover or a shell bed or something like that. But guys, this is a strategy that is like winning tournaments. And I know it sounds really simple, and the truth is that it is that You know, for example, you look at Scott Martin this year, you know, he caught a record amount of fish in a 3-day Bassmaster Open. He caught over 90 pounds of fish, so he averaged 6-pounders down on Lake Okeechobee. Now, a lot of people, when they saw that he was leading this particular tournament, what did they think? Oh, Scott lives on the lake. He probably has this little hidey hole, a little sneaky spot, a little spot way up in the reeds that nobody else knows about. No. That's not what happened. What Scott did was he fished in a crowd of like, out of 200 some boats, about 220 boats in this particular tournament, there was around 80 to 100 in like a several hundred yard section. And guess who was there? Scott was, right? It was a community hole. It was an area where everybody knew that this tournament could potentially go down. And yet Scott found a little section in there where there was some big bass that was spawning, and he just knew it better than everyone else. He knew to slow down. When other guys were moving around, fishing fast-moving lures, he knew these fish were setting up to spawn, and he slowed way down. As a matter of fact, I heard that he stayed in the same area for like several hours, like power pulled down in the exact same spot for several hours, picking apart a little area where there was a lot of bass on beds. Now, this particular strategy is not just a Florida thing. It happens everywhere. You know, we just watched a tournament on Toledo Bend, and one of the very most popular creeks on Toledo Bend is Housen. Everybody knows that. Like, I did a whole video all about this. And yet, because everybody knows it, some people won't fish that area because they know it's going to be crowded. But the thing is that if it's a popular area, it's a popular area for a reason. So sometimes you can go into these areas and just find something very small. Maybe, like I said, maybe it's a small piece of cover. Maybe it's a depression where all the fish are. Maybe it's a technique. Maybe a lot of anglers are fishing through these areas fast, and you come through with a Nico rig or a drop shot, and you're able to catch fish in the same areas by slowing down. You know, a lot of people at that Toledo Bend tournament, like 7 of the top 10 in that tournament, guess where they were fishing? Housen, right? A community hole, a community area. I know for me, and one of the best Bassmaster Opens I ever competed again, I used this strategy and was able to get a 4th place finish out of over 200 anglers, because I knew on the south end of that lake there's a really big bay, and it's really well known for just having a population of bass that live there. And so I knew that, and I knew kind of where the fish spawned. I knew where they would probably go in the summer, and I scanned in between. And I found a little area that had some grass in it. And the first day, I shook off 2 fish in practice. I came back there every single day during the tournament for 3 days, and the fishing just continued to get better. And I was catching so many fish because I had found the one sweet spot in the community hole area. So I know for a lot of us anglers, we like to get away. We like to get away from the pressure, from the boats, from the people. I know that I'm that way, but I also know that living in Ohio, like, our fisheries are so small, you see guys catch fish all the time. Like, so it doesn't really bug me anymore to be in a group of people. But if I know that I have something dialed in a little bit better than they do, like I said, maybe a spot, maybe a lure, whatever it may be, I know that I can still go out there and catch fish. So I actually highly suggest this strategy. If you are struggling out there on the water, just go to those areas where you know it goes down and try to find that little spot, that sweet spot where you can start catching them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you can support it by clicking on the Fin Fishing. You can also watch my most recent video right here, and I will see you guys hopefully tomorrow.